sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink as twilight settled over the sleepy town of Maple Grove. I remember that day like it was yesterday. My name is Emma, and I was just 8 years old at the time, skipping along the sidewalk with a small bag of groceries clutched in my hand. My mom had sent me on a quick errand to pick up some milk and bread from the corner store. It wasn't far, and I felt so grown up being trusted with this responsibility. But I wasn't alone on my little adventure. Trotting faithfully by my side was my best friend in the whole world, a magnificent German shepherd named Shadow. What most people didn't know was that Shadow wasn't just any ordinary dog. He had once been a highly trained canine unit, serving alongside the brave men and women of our local police force. An injury had forced him into early retirement, and that's when my dad, a police officer himself, had brought Shadow home to us. From the moment Shadow padded into our lives, we formed an unbreakable bond. He became my protector, my confidant, and my partner in crime. Well, mostly just in stealing cookies from the jar when Mom wasn't looking. As we made our way home that evening, I hummed a tune, lost in my own little world of make-believe. I was completely oblivious to the danger that lurked just around the corner. The peaceful twilight was suddenly shattered by the thunderous roar of motorcycle engines. A group of bikers, known as the Night Wolves, came tearing down the street. They had been terrorizing our town for weeks, leaving a trail of fear and destruction in their wake. Tonight they were out looking for trouble, and unfortunately they had set their sights on me. The lead biker, a burly man with a thick beard and arms covered in tattoos, spotted me walking alone. Well, not entirely alone, but to him, Shadow probably looked like just another family pet. The man, who I later learned was called Grizzly, nudged his buddy and sneered, "Look what we've got here, boys. An easy target." The gang slowed their bikes, circling around me like a pack of hungry wolves. My heart began to race, and I clutched the grocery bag tighter, my knuckles turning white. Shadow moved closer to me, his body tense and alert. Grizzly dismounted his bike, towering over me as he approached. "Hey there, little lady," he growled, his voice rough like gravel. "What's a pretty thing like you doing out here all alone?" I took a step back, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm just going home." Another biker, a lanky man with a snake tattoo coiling around his neck, chimed in with a sinister chuckle. "How about you come with us instead? We'll take you for a real fun ride." Terror gripped me, and I felt my legs start to shake. I knew I was in serious danger, but before I could even think about running, Shadow sprang into action. He stepped forward, placing himself between me and the bikers. A low, menacing growl rumbled from deep in his chest, and I saw the biker's eyes widen in surprise. Grizzly laughed, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "Oh no, the little girl's got herself a guard dog. What's he gonna do, lick us to death?" If only they knew what Shadow was capable of. "You don't know what you're messing with," I whispered, my hand instinctively gripping Shadow's fur for comfort. The snake-tattooed man took a step closer, reaching out to grab my arm. "Yeah? What's he gonna do? Bark us? He never finished that sentence. In a blur of motion, Shadow exploded into action. With lightning speed and precision that could only come from years of intense training, he lunged at the man's outstretched arm. His powerful jaws clamped down, not enough to cause serious injury, but more than enough to make the biker howl in pain and stumble backward. "What the hell?" Grizzly shouted, his face contorting with rage. He reached for something in his jacket, a knife glinting in the fading light. But Shadow was already 2 steps ahead. He released the first biker and pivoted, his body a coiled spring of muscle and determination. As Grizzly lunged forward with the knife, Shadow dodged with an agility that seemed impossible for a dog his size. In the blink of an eye, he leapt, slamming into Grizzly's chest with the force of a canine missile. The big man went down hard, the knife clattering to the pavement. Shadow stood over him, teeth bared, a low, continuous growl emanating from his throat. It was a sound that sent chills down my spine, and I could see the fear in the bikers' eyes as they realized this was no ordinary dog. "That ain't no regular mutt," one of them shouted. Another yelled, "It's a police dog, we gotta get out of here." Panic spread through the gang like wildfire. They scrambled for their bikes, engines roaring to life, but Shadow wasn't done yet. As one of the bikers tried to make a grab for me in the chaos, Shadow was there in an instant. He clamped down on the man's leg, not breaking skin, but holding him in place with a grip of iron. I stood there, frozen in a mix of terror and awe, watching as my beloved Shadow single-handedly took on a gang of grown men. He moved with a grace and precision that was almost beautiful to watch, never causing more harm than necessary, but making it crystal clear that these men would not be laying a finger on me. Just then, the welcome sound of police sirens filled the air. Someone must have called 911 when they heard the commotion. The remaining bikers revved their engines in panic, speeding off into the night and leaving their fallen comrades behind. Within moments, police cars screeched onto the scene and officers poured out, guns drawn. "Freeze!" they shouted, quickly apprehending the injured bikers and slapping handcuffs on them. As the chaos subsided, I finally let out the breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. I turned to Shadow, who was already padding back to my side, his tail wagging as if to say, "It's okay now. I've got you." I threw my arms around his neck, burying my face in his fur. "You saved me," I whispered, my voice shaking with emotion. Shadow responded by gently licking my cheek, his warm brown eyes full of love and protection. My dad, Officer Thompson, was one of the cops who responded to the scene. When he saw me, he ran over and scooped me up in his arms, holding me tight. "Emma, are you okay, sweetheart?" he asked, his voice thick with concern. I nodded, still clinging to him. "I'm okay, Dad. Shadow, he protected me. He stopped them all." One of Dad's fellow officers approached, whistling in amazement as he looked at Shadow. "That's one incredible dog you've got there, Thompson. He just took down 3 gang members like it was nothing." Dad smiled proudly, reaching down to ruffle Shadow's fur. "He's not just a dog," he said, his voice filled with emotion. In the days that followed, the story of Shadow's bravery spread throughout Maple Grove. The night wolves were arrested, their reign of terror finally at an end. Our town hailed Shadow as a hero, and he even got a special commendation from the police department. But for Shadow, none of that mattered. His only mission had always been clear: protect me no matter what. And that's exactly what he did, without hesitation or fear. As I sit here years later recounting this story, I'm struck by how much that day changed my life. Shadow taught me that true courage isn't about size or strength. It's about heart, loyalty, and the will to protect those we love, even in the face of danger. He showed me that sometimes our greatest heroes come on 4 legs, with wagging tails and hearts full of unconditional love. Shadow lived to a ripe old age, and though he's no longer with us, his legacy lives on. Every time I see a German Shepherd or hear a story about a brave canine officer, I think of my Shadow, the extraordinary dog who became my guardian angel on that fateful twilight evening in Maple Grove.